subtract two fractions with different denominators, you have to first find the least common denominator, the LCD. In this case, the LCD is a product of each factor in the denominator. So it's x times x plus 8. It is not just x plus 8. That's the first mistake students usually make. If you think about it, if x was 3, this outside number would be 3, or this denominator would be 3. This denominator would be 11. And 3 and 11 have nothing to do with each other. Yes, if x is 4, then there is some common factor, but it has to work for all x. When x is 5, this is 5, this is 13, again, nothing to do with each other. So when you have two different binomials, the only way you're going to have an LCD is to be the same thing as if the binomials are the same. Now, if you had another factor that said 1 over x squared, then you're adding that, then the LCD would just be the x squared, it wouldn't be the x cubed. But when they're two different binomials, you just multiply them together. Okay, second step. Build each fraction to have that same denominator. In this case, that denominator would be that LCD. So it would be x plus 8. And we would want this one to be x and x plus 8 as well. To build this fraction, if you're going to need to multiply the bottom by an x to make this denominator be that LCD. So whatever you do to the denominator, you also do the numerator. So this would become an x squared. The same thing here, though I don't have as much room. We're going to multiply, this is missing an x plus 8, so I'm going to multiply the bottom by x plus 8. And if I multiply the bottom by x plus 8, I must multiply the top by x plus 8 as well. So this would become an x plus 3 with an x plus 8. Step 3. We're going to now subtract the numerators and leave the denominator alone. Makes sense because if you had 1/5 plus 2/5, that would be 3/5. If you had 5/5 minus 1/5, that would be 4/5. So that is what we're going to do next. Now, when we're subtracting the numerators, so let me just rewrite the first. You have to be very careful because this means minus the whole quantity up here. So I am going to keep this in parentheses. I'm going to leave the denominator alone. And I'm going to call this x squared. I'm going to FOIL this out. Plus 8x plus 3x plus 24. But I'm not going to put it in one denominator yet because there is these imaginary parentheses with a fraction bar, which means we have to eventually subtract all of the signs. Let's combine like terms, make that 11x. I'll rewrite the first term. I'm not going to change the bottom, but the numerator I'm going to call x squared plus 11x plus 24. And again, imaginary parentheses. So when you subtract the numerators and leave the denominator alone, you actually are going to have x squared minus x squared. But this again, think of this as a plus and negative, and you got to distribute that negative all the way through. It's subtracting, adding the opposite of everything in here. So that would be a negative 11x minus 24. The denominator stays the same. The x squareds do cancel, but you're left with a negative 11x. That's the most common mistake people make, is they'll make that a plus 11x, and then it's a minus 24 all over that denominator. I think that as far as we can go because there's nothing common in the numerator, and so it does not factor. It tells you to type your answer in factored form, but we cannot factor the numerator anymore. The denominator is already in factor form. So that is our answer.